Podcast Answer Man, episode number 51, sponsored by Evan Agee at Agee Design. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Podcast Answer Man. Oh my gosh, has it been a long time? Oh my gosh, no way. February 9th was the last time I posted. Almost a month? You've got to be kidding me. Craziness. I am so sorry that I've taken such a long hiatus from the Podcast Answer Man. If you've been following the My Crazy Life podcast, you know that I've not been slacking. I have not been without putting out podcasts. In fact, I've been publishing approximately anywhere between 2 and 5 podcast episodes every single day since I've been back from Podcamp, Nashville. Anyway, there has been, I think really what's held me up from doing Podcast Answer Man is the fact that I knew that I wanted to do some kind of podcast devoted to my experience at Podcamp Nashville. And of course, I have a lot of recorded content from people that I talked to while I was there. And I didn't want to go on and talk about other topics before I had an opportunity to share this stuff. But as you guys know, I hate to do editing. I don't like editing. And so I've just had all this raw content sitting around. So finally tonight, I've finally set aside some time, and we're going to hammer out a couple episodes of the Podcast Answer Man to be released over the next few days. And of course, the Podcast Answer Man is made possible through the generous support from Agee Design. And I want to encourage you, if you need any podcast graphic work, any kind of website design, anything at all when it comes to computer graphics, I tell you, Evan Agee has never steered me wrong. He's done a wonderful job for me, and honestly, I use him even some of the time for my own clients where I'm working on stuff, and I just get into a tight bind. And he's great, and in fact, he has graciously sponsored this episode, but not only that, but he'll give you 20% off if you mention the Podcast Answer Man. In fact, to make sure that I get tracked for all of my traffic that I'm sending over to him, why don't you go over to ageedesign.com/podcast. That's ageedesign.com/podcast. And make sure that if you want the 20% off, tell him the Podcast Answer Man sent you over there. So anyway, I did want to kind of share with you some of the events and my thoughts after leaving Nashville and having that event there, being that it was my second Podcamp experience, being that it was my first Podcamp speaking experience. Of course, you know, episode number 50 of the Podcast Answer Man was the recording of my talk that I gave. And wow, I tell you, speaking at a Podcamp event, I love public speaking. I've shared that with you guys in the past, but man, was it awesome. I loved every single bit of it. And it really opened up a lot of doors for some connecting and networking that would have, I think, otherwise been impossible. It was really neat to have the people who were not aware of my podcasting efforts prior to that event get to know me a little bit through my speaking that I did publicly. And so the folks that were able to hear me speak were able to at least get a taste of what I sound like when I'm talking, and about the passion that I have and how excited I am about podcasting and new media. And it went over really well, and a lot of people. The entire day, I was surrounded with people who wanted to talk and ask questions, and man, it just felt really good. Not in a prideful, boastful kind of way, but it just made me feel at home, and I really enjoyed that. Now, I'm going to play I'm going to play 3 different recordings of varying lengths. One's almost 8 minutes, one's almost 11 minutes, and one's 2 minutes in this episode. And then I'm going to shut down the recording here and move on into episode number 52 so I don't flood your iPods with stuff that you can't quite consume in one episode. I know that goes against the whole thing of podcasting. By golly, just give me a 4-hour episode. I've done it before, and people liked it. Well, some people did. Some people didn't. Anyway, I want to just say that overall, my experience at Podcamp Nashville, while it was completely, vastly different than my experience at Podcamp Boston, I will say that it was an excellent experience altogether. There were a couple things that I didn't like about it. Number one, As a speaker, I did not like the fact that I was limited to 20 minutes. In fact, if you go back and look at my episode, you'll note episode number 50, you'll notice I hit the record button right as I started talking, and I hit the stop button right as I quit talking, and I did have 4 minutes left. So in essence, they told me to wrap it up. I was done, and I was already out of time 16 minutes into my 20-minute talk, and I had prepared excellently for a 20-minute talk. And so I was a little bummed about that. My last 4 minutes got crammed into about 30 seconds, and I think it really showed. However, things still turned out pretty well, I think, given the circumstances. But I will tell you, big letdown, 20-minute presentation. No. If I speak at another Podcamp and they have a limitation of 20 minutes, I may choose not to speak just because of that. It's just not enough time, especially if you want to have any kind of group interaction. My feeling, you need at least 30 minutes minimum. 40 minutes would be excellent. So basically what you would get, in essence, is approximately 30 to 35 minutes with about 5 to 10 minutes for questions and answers and all that other good jazz afterwards. It's very minor. No, I'd say that one's a major. Now, there was another thing that I didn't like about Podcamp Nashville that I was expecting from all Podcamps, and that was the I think it's called the Law of 2 Feet. The whole idea is that in Podcamp, in these Podcamps, that you would have multiple sessions happening or occurring at the same time. Now, of course, the venue in which we were speaking would have kind of limited that, although there was another room off to the side that was kind of unused that could have been set up. However, in the venue that we had, is basically one stage, center stage. That was it, and all sessions were done from that one stage, and there were no competing sessions. And the Law of 2 Feet says that, listen, if there's ever a time when you are in a session and you feel like you're just not getting anything out of it whatsoever, it's not quite your cup of tea, you just get up and walk out, and nobody's going to think bad about you. And you move on to the next, maybe one of the other topics. Well, that was not possible here. And the nice thing about Podcamp Boston, and from what I understand from other Podcamps, is that in venues where there are multiple sessions going on at the same time, there are always these hallways. And in Boston, there were these hallways. And I'll say some of the greatest conversations and networking happened in the hallway conversations, in between and sometimes during multiple sessions happening. I hung out in the hallway and just really interacted with people. And I'll tell you, I really missed that in Nashville. In Nashville, you could not have an outside conversation with folks without seeming rude. And what I mean by that is that, not only is there the grand stage, the grand central stage, but there was these big loudspeakers blasting out into the common area where the tables were set. And so you couldn't just go up to somebody who's sitting at the table and start a conversation, because in a way you're talking in the room where the speaking is going on, and it was a little awkward. So if I had two things that I could say that I'm a little nitpicky about the Nashville experience, was number one, I didn't like 20 minutes or less. Number two, I didn't like the fact that I couldn't practice the Law of 2 Feet, and I could not have, and that was in combination with the fact that you also could not have those wonderful networking hallway conversations. You were limited to conversation in between speakers. So with that said, all I can say is that I still had an awesome time, and it was different than what I had expected, but it still went well. I will say, however, this, I do believe that had I not spoke that morning, I would have had a completely different experience at Podcamp Nashville, and I probably would not have liked the weekend at all. That's all I'm thinking, because, well, the thing is I knew the DivaCast girls, so I probably would have still spoke with them. Probably would not have had as high energy conversation based upon the fact that, they were able to hear me speak there that day, and that kind of drove a lot of the initial energy into the conversations that we had, and the same was true with a lot of the other people that I connected with. I did make some good connections in between sessions, but I'll tell you, a lot of people had to come up to me for me to feel comfortable talking to them because, like I said, it was almost as though you felt rude if you were to go up during a session. So people would come up to me afterwards, and I don't think that would have happened had I not spoke. And so I don't know. But you know what? It was. I think that they got that feedback from a lot of people, and I know that I've shared that feedback with some other podcamps that are being organized, specifically the one here in Ohio that's coming up in June. And I told them, I said, I want to speak, but I want more than 20 minutes. And number two, I hope you guys are going to have more than one session and have a hallway where people can congregate during, in between, during, before, and after all these sessions, because that's where the magic happens. It really is. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and break here for just a minute. I'm going to play a little bit of a clip that I had with three guys that I already knew, a part of the GSPN.TV community, and actually all three of them who were very big in a part of the SQPN community, which I'm also a part of with Father Roderick. And so here is a little bit of our conversation. I've seen these guys on Twitter, Ustream, online, everywhere, but I'm going to introduce some folks here. So first off, let's start with Scott to my right. Scott, long time no see, my friend.
I know, it's been since last weekend.
Yeah, it has. Now, you're from where?
I'm from Spring City, Tennessee, about 2.5 hours here from Nashville here.
That's right, and Scott was in Cincinnati this past weekend for some kind of trade show.
Right, we have a company that puts LED lighting on motorcycles, and we were at the V-Twin dealer show that takes place in Cincinnati every year.
And he and his wife, Christine, took my wife and I out to dinner, and we just thank you again.
Oh, you're very welcome. We enjoyed it. I figured I'd get a few tips from you, and I did, so it was well worth it.
He sucked that information right out of me. So anyway, next up we have Mark Smith here. He's also known as Thicky, Thicke. And Mark, good to meet you finally.
Oh, it's good to meet you too, Cliff. I know we've gone back and forth about Mac issues before, so.
Yes, we have. The issue with this Edirol recorder giving a capital MP3 versus a smaller lowercase MP3. I don't think they've ever fixed that, have they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, the Steve Jobs, I guess, he just thinks everything's perfect in his world, so.
Right.
Anyway.
It is in his world.
But it is a GarageBand issue, not a Mac issue.
Okay, that's good. So those GarageBand programmers are the ones that, it's that Fisher-Price software that just comes with the thing, right? Anyway, so if you guys have a Mac, you might want to check out helpigotamac.com. But hold on, I need to go back to Scott. Scott, tell us about your podcasting.
We're doing a show called The Sweatcast, and it's at sweatcast.tv. And my wife and I, Christine, do a show from the treadmill and the stationary bike and soon the weights, about a 30-minute audio video on Ustream. We do it every day. And then we put it out on the feed as an MP4 so you can subscribe to it and take it with you to the gym.
Sweatcast.tv.
Sweatcast.tv for all you old farts out there.
All righty. And then, Mark, do you do a podcast?
Yeah, I sure do. I do the Catholic Vocations podcast. It's a podcast dedicated to men and women who have followed a religious calling within the Catholic Church.
Excellent. Now, how is it possible that that's not a part of SQPN yet?
Well, I just started.
Okay, Father Roderick, I know you're listening. We've got a new Catholic podcaster out there, and he's not on the network yet, so let's hook him up, all right? All right, next we have Rob Williams, also known as the Tupelo Catholic. Mm-hmm. Rob, how's it going, my friend?
It's going very good, Cliff.
Now, I've actually had the pleasure of talking with Rob a couple times on live broadcasts that we've done on TalkShoe. Right. So tell us about your podcast.
Well, basically, our podcast is about a Catholic couple living in Mississippi. Well, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Just a Georgia couple. But we just talk about our lives and talk about faith, and our walk in faith, our jobs and stuff like that. And probably talk about our dogs.
Yeah. What about escaped monkeys? I've heard something about those.
Monkeys, yes.
That's actually the big difference between you and Catholic in a small town is that they're raising children. You aren't raising children yet. You're just raising dogs, right?
And watching out for escaped monkeys.
All righty. Well, it's good to see you guys here. I'm going to go and make some rounds, try to get some interviews with some other folks. And Father Roderick, if you're listening to this, I just want to let you know I already see at least one SQPN T-shirt here. So Rob's representing.
Thank you.
Would you like to speak in a minute?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, any minute now. Like 10 minutes ago you were supposed to be speaking. What happened?
Well, they haven't called me up to the stage yet, so you know me. I'm life unscripted, so I'm ready to go whenever they say.
Plus, he's interviewing us. I mean, he's got to have his priorities,
Well,
right?
That's true, absolutely.
And he could give this speech in his sleep, so you know.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I think I wrote my speech while I was sleeping this morning.
You don't sleep, do you?
I do, sometime between 4 o'clock in the morning and 11 o'clock in the morning.
Cliff is going to bed when I'm getting up. That's about 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it's kind of nice because every morning I see Scott come online on Skype, and I say good morning, good night, and I'll see you later.
That sounds like one crazy life.
Yes, it is. It's my crazy life. So, folks, I'm going to go run around here and see if I can get some other people before I have to speak.
See you later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Hey, Kieran, this is Cliff Ravenscraft here. I'm wondering if I can record you for my Podcast Answer Man podcast.
Sure, that's fine.
All right,
I don't know if I have much good to say.
All right, well, tell me, what interests you here at Podcamp?
Mostly, I've worked in IT here in Nashville for about 10 years and went to bar camp during the summer and realized that was an event where, as long as I've worked here and as many people as I've known, there wasn't a single person in that room apart from the guy I came with who I had worked with or met before. And so sort of opened my eyes to the fact that there's a whole sort of community of people here in Nashville that I just hadn't been involved with or gotten to know. And so I decided I just wanted to start kind of getting involved with things and see who's out there and find out what's going on around town. So just get more involved really and kind of do a little networking. So I'm not a podcaster. I'm not personally involved in a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm not a real good blogger, pretty negligent about that as well, but generally just sort of interested in the community of people here in Nashville and see what's going on.
Very cool. Well, I'm glad to have met you. And if it wasn't for podcasting in that community, I wouldn't be here today. So it's good to meet you.
It's good to meet you, too.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so next up I have Sean and Mark Anderson. Is it Anderson? Anunson, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So who goes first? Let's start with Sean. Okay.
First.
All right.
Okay.
Mark, tell us about what you're doing here at Podcamp and what interests you the most.
Well, I'm here for the chicks, man. I'm here for the chicks.
These Podcamp babes are wonderful. Wow.
There's been one woman in here. She's 97 years old. She was actually looking for directions to the Waffle House. And I gave her a ride down there and gave her my card, and she's coming back later, so we can all talk to her later.
That's great. That's wonderful. So you do a podcast?
Yeah, Sean and myself and another guy named Jesse, we do the Mangy Dog Radio Hour Whoop-De-Doo.
Whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo. Sorry.
After you say Mangy Dog Radio Hour Whoop-De-Doo, you always have to say,
I wasn't ready. Try me again. Feed me.
We do a podcast called the Mangy Dog Radio Hour Whoop-De-Doo.
Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. And that's it's on the internet, Revere Radio, iTunes, comedypodcast.com. It's probably the most popular podcast you've never heard about.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's voted by comedypodcast.com.
It's their flagship podcast.
Yeah, and that's saying a lot because it's pretty much the only podcast on there right now. So.
I gotcha. So you guys from Nashville?
We are, yes.
Well, yeah, we are now.
All right. Very
Live
cool.
from Nashville.
Live. So what's your podcast? I want to hear about that. Let's
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be the first person speaking up there, so you're going to hear more about me than you ever
sweet.
wanted to hear.
Oh, man.
In 20 minutes or less.
When can we listen to this?
Probably tomorrow.
All right.
So,
That's great.
podcastanswerman.com.
All right, cool.
All right, thanks, guys.
Is that a good enough interview? Do we need to take two? Or
I'll tell you what, let's do that over.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I had forgotten that I also talked with, I think it was Kieran and the Mangy Dog Radio Super Hour show guys or whatever they were. But anyway, you got that in there as well. You could just tell there was a lot of excitement in the air getting ready for the event to start. And right after I talked with those folks, I went up and gave my speech, and that's when episode 50 happened. Immediately following my talk, I ended up getting an opportunity to speak with Joseph Jaffe. Now, Joseph Jaffe is a pretty popular podcaster out there in talking about new media marketing. And he's very low tech as far as the way he approaches his podcasting. In fact, he's got one of those little $30 Radio Shack digital audio recorders, and his sound quality kind of, shows. However, I will tell you that he's got a very popular show, and a lot of people are listening to what he has to say because his content is relevant, and it really talks about the need for change in the way that companies market their businesses to the new consumers. And so anyway, with that, he was very, I guess, energized by the talk that I had given, and he wanted to interview me. And so he pulled out his Radio Shack digital recorder and says, "Hey, do you mind if I interview you?" And I said, "Absolutely not." And so I pulled up, of course, being the person that I am, I pulled out my Adderall and I hit record as well. And this is what we got.
So I am so still like low tech. It's unbelievable, which is part of the whole message, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
It's like I am the $30 Radio Shack dude, So I'm here with Cliff Ravenscroft, as we would say in South Africa, who gave an impassioned presentation at Podcamp Nashville. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things you said and really what the highlights were of what I thought was an awesome presentation here at Podcamp Nashville.
Well, if I had to say anything about the highlights, is really passion is everything. You have to find your niche. You have to find out what it is that makes you come alive. And for me, it's my faith, it's entertainment, and it's technology. Those three things, you couldn't pay me to stop talking about those things, and so therefore it's just going to happen. And so to give me a microphone and allow me to have a voice and share my passion with people, and then all of a sudden people being inspired, encouraged, educated, and entertained by that, it was a dream come true, a dream that I never realized I had until it happened. And then as soon as I got it, nothing else in my life mattered except for having that voice and getting the word out.
You see, it's a very interesting point because, the one thing that I'll say to people is everybody is an expert at something. So, passion and expertise, in a way, are two very interesting thoughts because they may or may not be the same thing. But the point is that, we saw a slide for someone who's got a knitting pod, a man, right?
Yeah.
Not what you would expect, but he's passionate about knitting. And to the knitting community, and certainly to his listeners, he is an expert, and therefore he is influential.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And the fact is that it doesn't matter what your passion is. As long as you're passionate about it, there are other people out there that share your passion. As crazy as whatever your passion is, there are other people like you. And that's the most amazing thing it's one of the amazing things about podcasting is that, there are a couple of things that I'm passionate about, and my friends locally got tired of hearing me talking about it. That's all you talk about, Cliff. You only talk about that TV show Lost. You only talk about this. You only talk about that. It's like, do you have any other interest in like no? This is what drives me. This is what I thrive on. And so, people kind of put up with it for a while, but then you kind of have to tone yourself back with your friends and your family because they get tired of hearing you talk about the same thing. But all of a sudden you start a podcast about that passion, and then people all of a sudden are like, if you miss a week, they're like, Cliff, we're waiting for that next podcast episode where you're going to spend 55 minutes talking about this. It's like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point because, at the end of the day, this is about community, and it is about focus as well. And some people try and be all things to all people, and some people as well, they're seen as even overbearing maybe with their friends and family. And in a way, I sometimes refer to it as asynchronous intimacy. But there really are meaningful connections and bonds being created as well. When I speak later to the group, I'm going to go a little bit off presentation and talk as well about the advertising side because it seems to interest a lot of people here as well. But, at the end of the day, advertisers are desperate for that. The word in the industry is engagement.
Yes.
They want this engagement, but there is no engagement on television. There's no connection in radio. There's no engagement in mainstream media because there's no that emotional bond, that connection. The fact is, almost every single podcaster, including Adam Curry, can be contacted, has an email address, is accessible. And that's maybe the difference maker. So in addition to this idea of expertise and passion, there is also accessibility that I would say is number 3.
Yeah, accessibility is amazing. I mean, having connection, building community with people, what really drives podcasting for me is the relationships that I build. I have friends today that totally do not understand what I say when I said, I have a friend of mine who's a podcasting priest in the Netherlands. And they're like, oh, we even have coined a term in our podcasting community called imaginary friends. So it's like, whenever somebody says, hey, Cliff said this, Cliff said that, that's what some of my listeners are saying in the car when they speak to their wife, and they're like, oh, those podcast people? It's like, no, they're friends. I mean, we're really friends. And so, yeah, we are accessible. We do answer emails. We do respond to you. Many of us would die to have you call and leave a voicemail or a comment on a listener line. And we put the numbers out there for you for a reason. And yeah, we are you can reach us without any problem at all.
I think the industry term, in fact, is pod people. No. So Cliff, the Jaffe Juice audience, how many podcasts you got? Tell us about it. Share it with us.
All right. I have 17 of my own personal podcasts.
Okay. Insert Goss Cast Blaster sound here.
Okay, so here's the deal. My wife and I started out with the TV show Lost. We podcast immediately after that episode airs, each time it's a new one. And then we come back on the weekend and produce a second podcast. So we do that one twice a week when Lost is on.
How many listeners?
Over 14,000 to the podcast.
I met some of the guys over in Dallas. They had Lostcast. I think that was theirs. But
yeah, that's Brian Keeler, or John Keeler.
John Keeler, and he had 7,000 or 8,000. Crazy. All right, carry on.
Yeah, so we started with Lost, and then I started saying, I want to start sharing my life. And I know that people come here, they come to listen about Lost. So I started another show called My Crazy Life, which is just my daily audio journal. Stream of thought, everything, you get it all. Even the stuff I wish I never would have said. I mean, it just goes out there, and people are drawn to the authenticity of me sharing my life online. So I love that. It's my favorite show of any of the shows that I do. We then went on to I started another show called Generally Speaking About the Church, where I share my faith. But then we started getting in, it's like, we're doing Lost. Why not do Grey's Anatomy? My wife loved the show Grey's Anatomy. Then we started Private Practice as an offshoot. Then we did Heroes. Now my daughter, and you heard me mention earlier, my daughter, 8 years old, she has just finished her 3rd episode of Hannah Montana podcast, the fan podcast. Over 4,000 listeners after 2 weeks. And that is just growing like crazy.
So I took my daughter to see the 3D movie last week, so I'm going to introduce her to your podcast.
Yes, and it's great because it's an opportunity for me. This is what podcasting does for me. All these podcasts that I'm talking about, 17 of them, you're thinking, okay, Cliff's a husband and he's a father of 3. When does he have time with his family? We podcast our family. My wife and I, almost all of the shows are co-hosted with my wife. We have more conversation as the husband and wife than almost any other couple I've ever known. Communication is like through the roof in our house. And you know what? The amazing thing is, do we fight? Do we bicker? Do we argue? Yes. And we do it in the podcast. And people are like, wow, that's real. That's authentic.
I'm definitely mentioning this one to my wife. I love the idea of connecting through podcasting as well. And by the way, I love the fact that you exploit your 8-year-old daughter. That's awesome, man. I love it. You gotta milk the offspring. You gotta do it. Like at the end of the day, I look at my kids and I say to them, like, is she a doctor? Is he a famous author? I need to place my bets now, and I need to make sure. Cece spoke about lawyers and contracts. I'm only kidding, of course. But at the end of the day, it's what happened to Lindsay Lohan's dad ain't going to happen to me. I'm just saying that right now.
Go.
My wife can respond to that later.
So, I mean, I could go on about the other shows. I do one called The Podcast Answer Man. I do a bunch of shows. I mean, all of them are at gspn.tv. The one thing you can be sure of is that every podcast that I do, I'm extremely passionate about the topic for which I podcast about.
Well, Cliff, it's a real pleasure to meet you. I'm honored, as I always say, that you listen to Jaffe Juice. It is customary, if you would have listened early on, that I hug every single person that I meet. So hug it out.
All right.
Hug it out. And I'm going to be subscribing to at least My Crazy Life. The funny thing is, my wife and I have not gotten into Lost. We just bought season 1 DVD. So talk about the long tail.
Yeah.
So we're going to watch it, and I'm probably going to find myself archiving.
Well, here, let me tell you about Lost.
Never watch one episode.
Well, let me tell you, as a casual viewer, if you just watch the show, it's entertaining as all get out, and you will love the mystery that comes right around the second half to the last third of the season 1. It really sucks me in right at that point in time as far as interest for the mystery that's on this island. However, I will tell you, there are things in that show that you will never catch as a casual viewer. Literally, you have to there are people after the show is finished, they take where they've recorded it and do a screen capture of every single frame of that show.
Wow.
And people analyze it, and there are things in there meant for you to go in and analyze. A book laying on the bed, just sitting on the bed in the background, that book is sitting there for a reason. They want you to go and look up what that book's about, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, wow, that has an obvious tie-in to what's being told in the story. And just tons of stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely. That's what my wife and I first started doing. We would say, okay, after the episode, let's go research everything everybody's talking about on the internet and come and put it together for you to listen to.
Well, it's been a real pleasure, man. And I hope my listeners get as much out of this as I just got from listening to you, and I'll be listening in the future. Thanks, man.
Great. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, and so that was my talk with Joseph Jaffe, and what a great man he is. I was glad to finally get to meet him. I had heard his name so many times. I listened to one of his episodes on the way down to Podcamp Nashville. I listened to 2 or 3 episodes on the way back home from Podcamp Nashville. He is very enlightening as far as his discussion and his review of what's happening in the realm of marketing and new media. I think he's got a couple books out there that he's written about it. I know CC Chapman talks about him all the time, and so very neat guy. I really enjoy talking with him and looking forward to hooking up with him in another venue of Podcamp sometime down the road, I'm sure. And this last bit that I'm going to play for you here was a meeting that I had with a guy named Mike from Concert Blast. Now, Concert Blast is a podcast I had heard about a long time ago. I listened to a couple episodes, really liked it, and somehow it eventually made its way off of my iPod. But I'm very glad that I connected with him down at Podcamp Nashville, and I'm proud to say that Concert Blast is back on the playlist. But anyway, here is my conversation with Mike.
Check 1, 2. Okay. Hey, everybody. Cliff Ravenscraft here. Continuing on meeting new people here at Podcamp Nashville, and I'm here with Mike. Mike, what's your last name?
I'm Mike Arnold from Concert Blast.
All right. Now, Mike is just introduced himself to me, and what's amazing is I've heard Concert Blast. I found it on my own somehow. And I'll tell you, for my audience, tell folks what you guys do.
Well, what we do 3 different things. We do concert reviews. We actually do the review at the venue. We talk to the fans. So we do interviews with the artists, with the fans, with the people behind the scenes. And we also do music discussions.
Right. Now, you do just about anybody that'll come into Nashville, right?
Well, we usually stay in the classic rock genre.
Okay.
But, Nashville's country music, and we do a lot of Christian rock
That's
music,
what I think I would really, because I like a lot of Jars of Clay and stuff.
Yeah,
you guys did Jars of Clay once,
we did
right?
the Gospel Music Week.
Yeah, okay.
GMA Week, and Jars of Clay was one of them we talked to.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you guys go to these events, and now you've got to the point where the artists are actually inviting you to come and cover them, right?
That's right. Matter of fact, the Bonnaroo Festival, big festival here in Tennessee, that brings people in from all over the world, contacted us last year and the year before. Memphis in May has a 3-day big event. All the festivals usually try to get us to get out there. We promote not only the artists, but the festivals, the venues, wherever we are, even the promoters.
Awesome. And where can folks find your podcast?
At concertblast.com, of course, on iTunes and all the other podcast directories.
Well, wonderful. Thank you very much, Mike. It's good meeting you.
Thank you, Cliff. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Alrighty, so that gives you just a little bit of an example of some of the conversations I had there at Podcamp Nashville. Stay tuned for episode number 52, and it's going to be Podcamp Nashville Review Part 2, I guess. and I'm going to be sharing a little bit of a sound clip that I had with two of the divas from the DivaCast. That was an excellent conversation, and then I, of course, had a conversation at an after party with Mitch Cantor and David Delaney, two guys that I had met at Podcamp Nashville for the very first time. So that'll be coming up shortly. Thanks for listening, and special thanks to Evan Agee over at ageedesign.com/podcast. Make sure you mention the Podcast Answer Man for 20% off.